Hey, this is Kenny Florian, and you're listening to the I Only Touch Greatness podcast.
3 times you battled for the UFC championship. Came up short, obviously, against Shirk, Penn, and Aldo. Still an amazing feat to have. I've always considered you one of the best MMA fighters not to win the championship. What was it like getting there and being that title fight?
Thanks, man. It was every time it felt a little different. With the Sean Shirk fight, I certainly didn't have a whole lot of experience, and wasn't sure how that was really going to go down. I was prepared to kind of do my best and fight him as hard as I could, and obviously, Sean was able to get the better of me, and the fight against BJ Penn was really cool because it was cool in that he was a guy that I always looked up to, but I think that also affected me. I think I held him in too high of regard and gave him a little bit too much respect in some ways. And that was also another fight where just kind of training camp wise, there was a lot that just didn't go right in my opinion. And but either way, I do think that he was a guy that was just way better prepared. I thought he had better skills on the feet and as far as wrestling, and those are the two things that I really needed to work on and get better at. It was after that fight that I started training with Firas Zahabi, and I think I made way more progress in getting better as a fighter as well. And then in the fight against Jose Aldo, that was an awesome fight. I think skill wise, I never felt better. I felt that the weight cut was horrible. And that was kind of the biggest challenge before that. And I didn't feel right in that fight, but I do feel that it was an awesome experience where I learned a lot and improved. I think there's, in martial arts, I do think it's very true. You either win or you learn, and every single time and every day, even until today, it's about trying to get better. And our opponents are great teachers, and they show you in real time and what you need to work on and where your vulnerabilities are.
Joe Rogan described your elbows as being razor sharp. Pretty good compliment coming from a guy like that.
I guess, yeah. Joe has done so much good for the sport, and promoting it, and him just being a huge name, and to see him do so well now is awesome to see. But I think elbows are one of those things that I think not a lot of people work on. It's still, even to this day, I feel like it's getting a little bit more popular. But
would that have been your favorite strike?
Practice it. Yeah, not a whole lot of people practice it, I think. And I think back then I was one of the few people who did, and I was able to win some fights that way.
Okay.
One of your fights that sticks out to me the most was the Clay Guida one. What a fucking fight that was!
Yeah, it was a fun fight. Clay was a guy who gave a lot of people hell, man. He beat Anthony Pettis. He beat Nate Diaz. He beat a lot of good guys back in the day, and he was a huge challenge in my mind. He was a guy that was very unorthodox. He was an excellent wrestler. He had an endless gas tank. He was always moving forward, and my goal was, to use that against him in some way, shape, or form. And I was able to get the win, and I was, able to get the finish, which was really cool. And Clay's one of those guys I have a lot of respect for, and he's still in the fight game doing it, man. It's amazing. He's a beast.
He is. He's not hanging him up yet. That's for sure.
No.
Do you have a favorite sports hero?
Oh man, there's a lot of guys. Diego Maradona, who just passed away, was a guy that I looked up to as an athlete. And sure, he had his fair share of challenges outside of sports, of course. But as a player, he was like a true artist, man. Him, Michael Jordan, are guys that I kind of looked up to a lot. Larry Bird. Being from Boston. So yeah, those are kind of the three that really stand out to me.
Okay.
Obviously, yourself being a UFC legend, you fought many other legends in like Maynard, Stout, Sanchez, Penn, Aldo. Does any of those stick out more than the other?
Geez, I think for me, I think the BJ Penn fight was really cool. To fight a guy who was that big of a legend at the time was huge. So that was probably my most difficult fight. As far as where we were at that point in our lives, skill wise, I thought that was my toughest fight.
Is there ever a fight that you wish would have happened that you never got to actually fight?
It would have been cool to get a rematch against someone like BJ Penn or Diego Sanchez. I think that would have been cool. Those are guys from my generation that it would have been cool to kind of regroup and get a chance at fighting them again. But it didn't pan out that way.
What was your favorite venue to fight in?
That's the one I was going to say.
Jeez, let's see. It was always cool fighting in Vegas, man. Fighting at the MGM or fighting at Mandalay Bay was pretty special. I mean, the energy in both of those places was unlike anything that I've ever experienced. I got to say, Vancouver was pretty damn cool, man. Like, even though you guys wanted to kill me and were swearing at me as I was walking out, it was the energy there was electric. And it almost, being cheered against was actually kind of cool. And that happened in Minnesota as well with when I fought Roger Huerta. But it was almost, I don't know, it was almost less pressure. It was almost like allowed me to kind of go out and compete without any issue in a way. But, it's hard to pinpoint one, but anytime I fought in Vegas was really cool.
It was a dream venue you maybe never got to fight in.
I always thought and wanted to fight in Japan. I always thought I was going to fight in Japan one day. And I always thought it was going to be against Takanori Gomi. I got half of that right. I did fight Takanori Gomi, but it wasn't in Japan. It was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that was pretty cool.